You're seriously not going to believe the rabbit hole I fell down, man. A few months ago, I was ready to trade in my old life for a hammock and a fishing rod, and now I'm pretty sure I dismantled a local organized crime ring. All because of a birdhouse. Just kidding mostly, but I'm telling you, I almost threw away 20 years of hard-won control and ended up in a county jail cell. The trigger? The instant I saw Clara, my Clara, sunk down on our cobblestone patio, face bleached white, holding her wrist like a broken doll, I felt it. That deep, cold, predatory focus. It's a survival mechanism, and it's ugly, but it's still there. 2 decades in the field, moving through shadows, learning how to break systems and bones, that teaches you one thing: how to channel pure, screaming rage into something surgical, something strategic. And this guy, Victor Cruz, the HOA's self-appointed muscle, he was standing there, puffed up, grinning like he just won the lottery. He had zero clue he'd just activated something trained to put down threats far bigger than his cheaply stitched polo shirt. I wasn't going to lay a finger on him, not physically. That's what he wanted. I was going to follow the training, find the weakness, build the team, and eliminate the target through systematic, legal, ground-up demolition. When I retired, I swore I was done with operations. All I wanted was peace, and that's what Clara deserved, too. She stood by me through all the deployments, the silences, the years I was basically just a ghost answering a call sign. She's a pediatric nurse, the real hero in our family, and she still wakes up early to make her special, calming herbal teas for her toughest little patients. We chose Redwood Estates because it promised quiet luxury, wide streets, and above all, community cohesion. We thought we'd found the forever home, the place where the nightmares finally ended. The first 6 months were a dream. I finally had time to get back to my hobby, customizing classic motorcycles, and I started a small, free weekend workshop teaching local teens basic vehicle maintenance and self-reliance. Clara loved the back garden, where she planted her apothecary. For her birthday, I spent a month restoring this gorgeous, vintage 1950s metal birdhouse. I polished it, mounted on a custom cedar post, and placed it right near her garden bench. It was tiny, a beautiful piece of Americana. The smile she gave me when she saw it was better than any commendation. 3 days later, the first shot fired. It was Victor Cruz, mid-30s, jaw too square, clipboard held like a shield. "Mr. Vance," he sneered, without even saying hello, "your unauthorized decorative structure is in violation of covenants, conditions, and restrictions section 11.a, paragraph 3. It's a $500 fine, and it must be removed within 72 hours. I looked at him, then at the birdhouse. I explained calmly that we hadn't realized a birdhouse required approval, but I'd submit the paperwork now. He leaned in, enjoying the power. "No retroactive approval, Mr. Vance. Rules are rules. It comes down, or the fine doubles." He slapped the notice into my hand and strutted off to his HOA Lee sedan. That evening, our neighbor, Marcus Mack Riley, retired FBI analyst, quiet, sharp eyes, came over carrying a bottle of bourbon. "You've met Evelyn Shaw's pit bull, huh?" he asked, pouring 2 fingers. "She runs this place like a cartel. They forced 6 families into foreclosure and sale in the last 2 years. They're running a racket." That hit me. An HOA forcing turnover? It made no sense unless the property was being undervalued and bought back by someone to know. Inconsistencies are where you find the truth. I filed a formal appeal. The response was a declaration of war. My appeal was denied, and they hit me with 6 new violations. My garage door color was improperly faded. The self-reliance workshop was classified as commercial nuisance. Clara's medicinal plants were noxious weeds, and the total fines are now over $3,000. This was targeted, personal, and dangerous. "They think we're going to fold, Alex," Clara said, her voice shaking slightly, but with a spark of steel. "We can't let them win. Not just for us." The calm settled over me. I was hoping for a quiet retirement. "Honey, looks like I have one last mission brief to write." The meeting with the HOA board was theater designed to intimidate. Evelyn Shaw, the chairman, looked like a magazine editor. Expensive clothes, zero empathy. She sat with David Hayes, the treasurer, a man so thin and nervous he looked like he was about to melt. Evelyn dismissed my evidence of selective enforcement with a wave of her hand. But when I cited the vague line items for landscape consulting and legal preparedness in the public financial reports, David Thorne's composure shattered for a split second. A bead of sweat dripped down his temple. Vulnerability identified. Finance. The harassment escalated instantly. Victor Cruz was constantly staking out our property, shining his flashlight into our windows. When I cornered him, he just patted his jacket pocket, where I could see the faint outline of a pepper spray canister. Just the job, Mr. Vance. You don't like surveillance? Move somewhere without the rules. He was a common bully, getting off on cheap authority. Then came the night the line was crossed. Clara was moving some large pots of herbs when Victor and two others cornered her. They claimed an immediate, unauthorized inspection. She stood her ground. I was in the garage. I heard the shouting, then the unmistakable, gut-wrenching sound of impact and a cry. I moved. I was on the patio in an instant. Clara was on the ground, holding her wrist, which was already swelling into an ugly purple. She resisted, Mr. Vance, Victor stammered. Clara looked up at me, her professional calm cutting through her own pain. Fracture, Alex. Definitely a fracture. My training took over. The part of my brain that calculates trajectories, angles, and lethal pressure points was screaming. Victor Cruz would have been neutralized in 3 seconds flat. But I was done taking lives. I was going to dismantle his life instead. You are done, I told Victor, my voice dangerously low. You will leave this property now. I have every intention of making sure you serve time for this. Victor scoffed. Call the police, Vance. Officer Jenkins is my guy. And he was right. Officer Jenkins arrived, barely glanced at Clara's clearly broken wrist, suggested she must have fallen, and refused to file a report. As I drove Clara to the hospital, I knew the stakes had changed. This wasn't just corruption. It was a systemic threat backed by the local police. Operation Clean Sweep was now live. The next day, sitting with Mac, the retired FBI analyst, I laid out the Delta Force perspective. The enemy's greatest strength is the belief in their own immunity. Mac slid his file across the table. Vivian Shaw's first husband died, a tragic accident involving a faulty water heater. Jenkins handled it personally. She inherited a windfall. David Thorne was quietly pushed out of his private equity firm for improper accounting. And Victor? Assault charge was dropped right before he joined the HOA. This was the core intelligence. Mac's wife, Jenna Riley, a local investigative reporter, immediately started researching Vivian's finances and their shell consulting companies. And my final asset, Ben Carter, a young, brilliant lawyer, former Air Force JAG, arrived, refusing payment. Clara helped save his infant daughter years ago. They violated 4 state anti-SLAPP laws and 6 covenants on fiduciary responsibility, Ben confirmed, shaking his head. They count on the residents being exhausted and broke before the case even gets traction. I smiled. They haven't faced a strategic team with infinite patience. Over the next 2 weeks, the operation was textbook. I methodically drove through Redwood, photographing every unapproved fence, every oversized shed, every violation on Vivian's and David's properties. I filed 15 separate, legally binding requests for mandatory financial disclosure. Clara, even with a cast up to her elbow, was coordinating with other residents who had been harassed. Our living room whiteboard became a battlefield map, linking Shaw, Hayes, Cruz, and Jenkins. You're not going to cross the line, are you, Alex? Clara asked one night, concerned. I turned, gently touching her cast. No, brute force is a failure of imagination. They hurt you. I'm going to use leverage and timing. I'm going to destroy their reputation and their finances. That's a more permanent victory. The harassment doubled. Fines hit $10,000. Then, a crucial, unexpected moment. Clara ran into Victor Cruz at the hospital. He was there with a minor injury. Despite everything, she treated him professionally, even giving him her signature herbal tea. Why the hell are you being kind to me? He asked. Clara simply replied, My integrity is not conditional on yours, Victor. That's who I am. A subtle crack. He looked confused, maybe ashamed. I filed the formal complaint with the state attorney general's office, including photographic proof of selective enforcement and Claire's medical records. Jenna's article dropped like a bomb. Redwood Estates, a case study in neighborhood extortion. Then came the final move, the one that turned the tide, the lien threat. Evelyn's attorney threatened to place a lien on our house for the unpaid $10,000. They thought they had us cornered. I just laughed. A desperation move. They're scared. The counterattack was swift. Ben filed a comprehensive audit request with the court. We received an anonymous package containing bank statements showing a secret account under Evelyn and David's names where HOA funds were funneled. Evelyn, panicking, called an emergency special assessment, $3,000 per household for legal defense of community standards. A clear attempt to liquidate the remaining legitimate funds. At the meeting, I stood up, calmly presented the evidence of embezzlement, selective targeting, and the anonymous bank statements. The assessment vote failed by a landslide. Evelyn fled the clubhouse, her composure completely gone. But the most critical piece of intelligence came from Victor Cruz. He broke, sending me a frantic message. "They're planning to set you up, Alex. Miller and Jenkins. They're planting pills in your motorcycle saddlebag tonight. They'll get an anonymous tip and nail you on drug charges." I decided not to run. I decided to weaponize the trap. Mac and I worked through the night. We install high-definition cameras near the garage. And the bag of pills Officer Jenkins was going to plant, I replaced it with something equally white and granulated sugar. Around 1 a.m., the camera caught Jenkins slipping the bag into the saddlebag. 3 hours later, he returned with a junior officer. He received a tip about my bike. I played along, granting consent to search. Jenkins triumphantly pulled out the bag. Well, Mr. Vance, looks like we have a problem here." His smirk instantly dissolved when he realized the contents were harmless. I don't understand," he muttered, holding the sugar. "No mistake, Officer Jenkins," I said, stepping out of the shadows. "Just a different substance than the one you planted at 1:12 a.m. this morning. I already swapped the contents. I have high-definition video of you planting that package. Copies have been forwarded to the police chief, the DA, and my attorney." Jenkins's face went gray. The chief arrived an hour later. Jenkins was immediately arrested for attempted framing and abuse of power. Word spread through Redwood Estates like wildfire. It was over in days. The DA's search warrants confirmed over $300,000 had been stolen. Evelyn was funding her daughter's luxury wedding. David was paying off loan sharks. The arrest came Friday morning. I watched Evelyn Shaw, the magnificent chairman, being escorted out of her mansion, handcuffed, her facade shattered. Later, the booking officer told Mac that when Evelyn demanded to know why she was being treated like a criminal, he simply replied, "Ma'am, you try to frame a man who was trained to hunt terrorists. You're lucky he stuck to the law." Evelyn went pale. Delta Force. Evelyn got 5 years for conspiracy and embezzlement. David got 4. Officer Jenkins lost his badge and got 3 years. Victor Cruz cooperated and dedicated his community service to the local Veterans Center, later admitting he learned more about courage from Clara than from his whole life of trying to intimidate people. 6 months later, Redwood Estates is transformed. The tiny birdhouse, the thing that started all, stands proudly in the sun, a beautiful monument to the fact that you can't regulate the human spirit. Clara and I were sitting on the porch last week, watching kids play freely on lawns that are now full of character. Mac and Jenna came over for a toast. "Worth it, Alex?" Jenna asked. "All the risk, all the stress." I looked at Clara, her wrist healed, her smile genuine. "Some fights choose you," I said. "And when they do, you either fight smart or you bow to the bully." I spent 20 years fighting for American values overseas. Turns out the toughest fight was defending them right here in my own damn backyard. Freedom requires maintenance, always.